After Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger ended diplomatic relations with France and kicked out French forces from their countries, some sources revealed that France is planning to reduce its military presence in West and Central Africa to around 600 troops, in line with President Emmanuel Macron's plans to limit the French military footprint in the region. However, the recent speech given by President Traore of Burkina Faso says otherwise. Last week, President Traore gave a powerful speech that centered on his plans as leader of the country for the next 5 years, a new protectionist policy on mineral resources, and damning revelations about neighboring Benin and Ivory Coast and how they are working together with France to destabilize Burkina Faso. So, what exactly is Traore accusing France, Benin, and Ivory Coast of? Speaking in front of the Palais des Sports in Ouagadougou, President Traore accused the imperialists, France, of wanting to plunder and destabilize Burkina Faso, as well as other West African countries. He said France failed in its anti-terrorism efforts, and instead of leaving the country, it has turned to destabilization efforts in Burkina Faso. Specifically, he stated that he has evidence of destabilization orchestrated against Burkina Faso by France and supported by Benin and Ivory Coast. He said, "We have nothing against the Ivorian people, but we have something against whoever governs Ivory Coast. We say it and repeat it. In fact, there is an operational center in Abidjan to destabilize our country." Traore went further to express concerns over the policies of Benin and Ivory Coast's leaders, specifically highlighting that there are 2 French bases in Benin targeting Burkina Faso. "Nobody will come and tell us that in Benin, there are no French bases directed against us. We have the evidence at hand," said Traore. According to Traore, these 2 French bases are used to train terrorists in Benin, and they are designed to destabilize Burkina Faso. He further added that Burkina Faso has concrete proof of the existence of the French bases, including tracks laid and soldiers equipped. He also said that there are audio recordings of French agents in Benin collaborating with terrorist operations. "We will show you physical evidence," he said. However, in a press release published on social media, the spokesperson of the Benin government promptly denied Captain Traore's accusations, which he defined as nauseating disinformation, which fuels the resentment of the populations and threatens the peaceful coexistence of the peoples. The spokesperson in turn underlined that the vast majority of thwarted attacks in Benin also concern attackers coming from neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. The French military has also denied the accusations from Traore. In a recently released statement, the French military formally denied the existence of military bases in Benin. The statement said, "The only permanent military personnel are the defense attaché and the cooperants seconded to the Europe and Foreign Affairs Ministry." It also added that France has only 5 bases in Africa, which are Chad, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Gabon, and Djibouti. Occasionally, temporary and short-term operational training detachments are deployed to support the Beninese armed forces at their request. The question now is, who is correct and who is wrong? Well, President Traore says he has proof and evidence and even audio recordings of French soldiers collaborating with terrorists in Benin. And he has said that the evidence will be released in the coming days. So for him to publicly say that he has evidence, that means there is an element of truth in his speech. Right now, we all have to wait for the evidence to be released. The interesting thing is that this is not the first time Captain Traore has accused Ivory Coast of hosting destabilizers. If you recall, the relationship between Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast has been tense in recent times. In one of his latest interviews with national television RTB, President Traore raised concerns about strained relations with neighboring countries, particularly Ivory Coast. He accused Côte d'Ivoire of sheltering elements opposing his regime and failing to address the terrorist threat spilling over the Ivorian border. During the broadcast on April 26th, Captain Ibrahim Traore emphasized efforts to foster understanding with most neighboring countries, but singled out Côte d'Ivoire for alleged lack of cooperation. He stated, "They must return to better sentiments. All the destabilizers of Burkina Faso are there. Ivorian officers spoke ill of Burkina. There is an issue that needs to be addressed honestly, without deceit. At some point, we have to stop the hypocrisy and tell the truth. there's a problem with the authorities of this country. Now, Burkina Faso is not the only country that has accused France of destabilization. Early this year, in January to be specific, the Prime Minister of Mali said something similar. He said that in the same way, the UN Security Council sowed disorder in Libya by assassinating Muammar, it's the same way France sowed chaos in Mali. In his own words, the Prime Minister said that, so you create chaos, you arm people, you tell them to go and divide Mali. The separatists clearly said that it was France that was behind the separatist movements of 2011 from Libya. The leaders of the movement said France had instigated them to invade northern Mali and divide it and create an independent state. We are not the ones saying that. It is the leaders of this movement who say so and are supported by French politicians. Interestingly, this was not the first time Mali was raising the issue of France's subversive efforts in the country. In 2022, the foreign minister of Mali, Abdoulaye Diop, wrote a letter to the United Nations accusing France of supporting jihadists and violating Mali's airspace. According to Minister Diop, he has several elements proving that illegal incursions into Malian airspace have been used by France to collect information for the benefit of terrorist groups and to drop them weapons and ammunition. The letter speaks of some 50 repetitive and frequent violations of Malian airspace by French forces since the start of 2022. Drones, helicopters, or fighter planes had flown over Mali without authorization from Bamako. Diop further stated that France carried out spying activities, including packages dropped by the French army on the 8th of August. This was proved after clandestine and uncoordinated overflight operations by France were conducted after an attack on Tessit camp, which claimed the lives of 42 Malian soldiers. Although Minister Diop called for an emergency meeting with the United Nations to address these claims, no such meeting was arranged and the issue died out. It is said that every rumor has an element of truth, and in this scenario, it is the same thing. It may seem wild to accuse France of such actions, but if you think about the history of France in Africa, you would understand that it is something that France can do as long as it is in their interest. Let's think about it together. What is the best way for a country to exploit another country that is blessed with abundant resources? If you think about it carefully, it's by offering help when there is chaos and insecurity. Imagine if Mali has been peaceful, with no violence and no Tuareg rebels. France would have no right to deploy its soldiers to Mali and set up a base. So, they had to create a situation which would ensure that Mali asked for their help, and they would swoop in as saviors to save the day. But their plan wasn't to completely eradicate the insecurity. The plan was to fight the jihadists and armed rebels a little, give them time to regroup and fight again, and so the cycle continues. The only way things will change is for all African countries to unite and fight the insecurity together. Leaving it for only one country to deal with is the reason why the insecurity spread from Mali in 2013 to Burkina Faso and Niger. Every African country has to work together to completely cut off Western influence and put an end to the numerous challenges facing the continent. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.